Last time we looked at the transfiguration, specifically the changes that occurred to Jesus in the transfiguration as described in Matthew, Mark, and Luke's Gospels. Today we're going to take a look at what the cloud, the voice from the cloud, said about Jesus in each of those. All three quotes are from the ESV. Let's start with Matthew 17:5b, the second half of verse 5. "This is my beloved Son, with whom I am well pleased. Listen to him." Then we get Mark 9:7b. "This is my beloved Son. Listen to him." And then Luke 9:35b. "This is my Son, my chosen one. Listen to him." So let's start out with Mark. It's the shortest, and we can get some of the grammar out of the way by breaking down the shortest one. "Houtos estin, ho huios mu, ho agapetos, akuete autou." So, houtos estin, this, the relative pronoun, houtos, this, estin, is, ho huios mu, my son. Then we get ho agapetos, the beloved one, my son, the beloved one, or as the ESV translates it, my beloved son. And then we get the imperatival phrase, akuete autou. So this is a present active imperative, second person, plural. The address is to Peter, James, and John. It's plural, so it's talking to all of them. Akuete autou, listen to him or hear him. So let's talk about the adjective for a moment. Ho agapetos. This is in the second attributive position for the adjective. So if you look, let's look back at the slide. We have ho huios mu. So ho huios is the head noun, article noun, and then the adjective, article adjective. Ho huios, ho agapetos. This is the second attributive position. Article noun, article adjective. Why does this matter? Because in the second position, both the head noun and the adjective receive emphasis. So it sort of answers the question about the noun, in this case, my son. Which son? The beloved one. So the sonship and the belovedness are both emphasized. That's important for us. And why is it important? Because it identifies the basis for the imperative. The imperative is hear him or listen to him. Why should you listen to him? Because the voice from the cloud, the voice of God, says, "This is my son." Which son? My beloved son, the beloved one. You should listen to him. If God's own voice speaks to you from a cloud and identifies Jesus as his beloved son and then tells you to listen to him, that's the justification for listening to him. So Matthew's account is identical, except he puts an insertion between the adjective beloved and the imperative akuete, listen or hear. And let's take a look. Houtos estin, ho huios mu, ho agapetos, identical to Mark, but then we get the insertion. En ho eudokesa, and then we get the end, akuete autou, listen to him. En ho eudokesa, this is my son, the beloved one, en ho, in whom, eudokesa, I am well pleased. This exact same phrase, this entire quote, appears in Matthew chapter 3, verse 17 at the baptism of Jesus. Jesus comes out of the water, the sky opens up, and a voice from heaven speaks and announces these exact same words. "This is my beloved Son, the one in whom I am well pleased. Listen to him." So the Old Testament is filled with God declaring things to be good or to be approved, right? In the creation story, God creates things, he sees them and just declares that they are good. In the story of the setting up of the sacrificial system in Leviticus, time and time again, things are described as being as God had approved, as he had sort of set aside, as he had commanded, and they are it's a system that's structured according to his choices. He wants it this way. And here we get this fantastic word from eudokeo, I think well of. Now here it says, in whom I am well pleased, in whom I think well. We get the same degree of approval, the same notion that the God who approves of creation, who approves of his orderliness, approves of his beloved Son. Notice then that the basis for listening to him is not just that he's his beloved Son, but also that he passes the scrutiny of the Father. God looks at him and says, this is my Son, the beloved one, in whom I am well pleased. I think well of him. It is good. What is the basis for obeying the imperative? Listen to him. The three things now, versus the two things of Mark, it's now the three things. He is my Son, the beloved one, in whom I'm well pleased. And now we move on to Luke, and we'll notice several interesting things here in Luke. Hutos estin, hohuios mu, just like Mark, just like Matthew. This is my Son, but agapetos is gone. Ho eklelegmenos, the chosen one, autu akuete. So before we look at the chosen one, look at the imperative. There's been an inversion of the imperative and its object. In Mark and Matthew, it is akuete autu, listen or hear him. In Luke, it's autu akuete. Why does that matter? Because the place of emphasis has changed. Matthew and Mark stress listen to him. Luke stresses the object of the listening, him listen to. So it's more important that Jesus is the important part of the listening more so than the listening. Now let's move on to this great little change. So this is my Son, not the beloved in this case, but the chosen one. The adjective agapetos has been replaced with the participle ho eklelegmenos, from from eklegomai, I choose, I elect, I select. This is a dependent adjectival participle in the second attributive position. Notice that it's positioned exactly like agapetos was, ho agapetos was. The emphasis on being his Son and on being beloved were the same because of that second attributive position. It's the same with this participle, which is functioning adjectivally. So what kind of Son is he? He's my Son, the chosen one. This is important because when we think of a choice, we tend to think of choosing one from among many. And that is a possibility with this term, but it's not limited to that. It can also mean that a chosen one being selected for a purpose. You can be the only one and still be the one chosen for the purpose. And so here, the gospel mission coming into the world, only this one Son is ever chosen in this way for this mission, for this purpose. Let's go back to our participle, ho ekleglemenos. This is a perfect passive participle. He's chosen and remains chosen. The elect, designated for this purpose at some time in the past, and that choice, that election continues on through the present. So in Luke, Jesus is called the chosen one in another place as well. So here he is at the start of the road to the cross. When they come down the mountain from the transfiguration, the journey to the cross from his earthly ministry of traveling and preaching, heightens and intensifies and culminates at the cross. At the cross, there are enemies of Jesus who refer to him as the chosen one, as God's chosen one. But they're doing so in a mocking, condescending way. Look at him, the chosen one, hanging on a cross, suffering. If he's the chosen one, why doesn't he save himself? It's a magnificent notion that because their understanding of being the chosen one is the chosen one should be able to save himself. What they can't see is, in not saving himself, it's the evidence that he's the chosen one. He's staying where he is in order that they could be saved rather than saving himself. It's pretty profound, and it's unique to Luke's gospel. He leaves out the adjective agapetos, the beloved, replaces it with the participle in an adjectival, direct, dependent adjectival form, ho ekleglemenos, and tells us that the reason that you should listen to him, Peter, James, and John, is because he is my son. Which son? The chosen one, the elect for this purpose, for the gospel. In all three accounts, God speaks from the cloud like he does in Exodus. He speaks to Peter, to James, and to John because apart from Jesus, they're the only ones that are up there. How do we know that he's speaking to them? Because the imperative in all three instances is plural. He's not speaking to Jesus. Jesus knows he's his son, the beloved and the chosen. He's speaking to Peter, James, and John and telling them why they should adhere, why they should obey the imperative. Listen to him. He's my son. He's my beloved son. He's my chosen son. Powerful, magnificent stuff. In every case, the important part is understanding who this is, the one that you've just seen transfigured before you, understanding who he is, listen to him. Great stuff. I hope that was good for you, and if it was, please like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. And until next time, Charis Kai Reine, grace and peace to you.